Happy Friday, legends. I'm Warnie, coach of the Warn Dogs. It's round 14. It's a bye round. And our man here, Drew Jones, on a bye round as well. But nothing stops. He's still on the track. Welcome in.
Yeah, we're the Sunny Coast Goats this week. Nice to be with you, mate. Jeez, bloody hell. Jordan Dawson, what a start to the round. Just went bang.
Incredible. Are you a Jordan Dawson owner?
I wish. No, I listened to Cal, who was like, tough matchup against the Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, scale of hardness. Yeah. He had 60 in the first quarter, mate.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So, he actually went 2 quarter-pounders to start the game, which is unheard of. So, on the ton at the half, which was huge. An amazing game for him. We do our weekly video, and I went Dawson as VC, into Baz as captain,
Nice.
And then last night, Calvin gets in my head.
Oh, no.
Guess what I did? Yep, of course. I went there and hit the VC on Baz instead. And, oh, man. God, it sucks because that would have just been the leg up to have. So, yeah, Dawson 156 in the end, 32 disposals, kicked 3 goals. He's just doing everything at the moment. It's almost like a man possessed the way he's going. But the Dogs weren't very good because they did get pounded by 57 points. Rory Laird's been good. 133 for him. And old mate Wayne, he had a few nice little late ones there to get himself to 96. So Miller was nice with that. Even Rochelle scored an 80. You've got an 87 from McAndrew. So lots of nice numbers there from the Crows. And probably one that we're all watching and we all have now is Hugo Hall-Kahan. So 75. So he's going to be making some coin. And I reckon he's probably going to count in a few best 18s this week.
Very handy. I think most would have had him last week, if not certainly this week. Just a cheeky 83, just going to pop in for my top 18 from Josh Rochelle there. Very handy.
That's nice. That's good because you're seeing him very well. So you've still got blokes like Josh Rochelle. You held on knowing that that's going to come through for you.
My team is like the Australian team playing against Bangladesh in the ODIs at the moment. It's like a fifth 11. Full of guys who should have been shipped off a long time ago, but there's just been too much other stuff going on. So Rochelle lives, and he'll count this week for the Goats. Great to see. Yeah,
we should see Rankin back next week, but it wasn't even for old Rochelle. He had 1 CBA for the game, so that's not been a factor for him after all. What we saw even earlier in the season and all the talk. But for the Dogs, we saw Bont. He had a bit of junk there, which you don't normally see from the Bont as much. 42 points in the last quarter to get him to 99 after a pretty slow start to the game. But, yeah, other numbers or other players throughout the thing. Obviously, Ed Richards was great with 28 disposals, kicked a snag as well, 9 tackles and 128. But, you've got Bailey Dale owning a 69, Tim English a 67, who, bloody hell, he's getting cheap and might be an option after his bye if you're considering. So, yeah, Riley Sanders has been excellent, 58. So it was just sort of that night for the Dogs, which is probably what you don't really want as any owners of those guys, as they've got a couple of games to go until their bye. All right, let's get into the teams. We've got a big one tonight. You would normally be down there, but you are on the sunny coast at GMHBA Stadium. You're not going to miss that trip down the highway to go and cover this one for AFL tonight. But we've got Mitch Edwards is back in after being arrested there last week, and Lawson Humphreys. The managing Brian Myers in that ACL, and then Tom Stewart out with a concussion. Now, the Suns have 4 changes. So Powell, Weller and Graham all injured. And Witts has been omitted there. So they're just happy to go in. It might be the Geelong matchup as such there with Edwards, but Ned Moyle will take the solo duties there. Ballard, Zeke Hewland, Ben Jepson and Sam Closey are the ins here. So we're looking at the Cats, who have got a bye to come, but the Suns, they're a team that we're all looking at last week, and they obviously have had their bye.
Incredible, really, that John Noble continues to get better to the point where it's sort of hard to ignore at the moment. I mean, you said last week he's too expensive, and then he drops 140 odd and has 15 marks. Are you ready to officially change your tune on Noble, or does it still? I mean, it still stands that he probably is too expensive.
Well,
but it's pretty hard to ignore, isn't it?
When you're looking at those scores and you run through them, so in 4 of his last 5, he's gone 126 plus. So that's just incredible there, with a couple of 140s in there, 130. It was at 69 against North Melbourne, who we do know, because of Cow's scale of hardest, tells us that North are a tougher team to play against. But yeah, we don't love Gold Coast's run here, but he can just get it done, and that's the thing we've been seeing. So I think it's okay to do 1.043 mil. You know, like we even had the Jordan Dawson one last night or whatever. You're happy to pay that if you're going to get those scores, because he could be out and out. I think I'm still worried, because I still default to the name, and that's the worst part. You know, like if you had the choice of him, and this week we've got sort of Whitfield and Ash as the players that are the hot property off their bye as defenders, is that you sort of default to that. But is that just old man Warn Dog talking and looking at names?
Well, Lockie Ash is definitely the best value premium in the game right now, because the couple of weeks that he had in the midfield just lowered that price a little bit, and now he's back in his normal role. I guess the difference is that Whitfield and Ash are always sharing. Like they're sharing sort of 220 points between them, whereas Noble just seems to now have the distribution from Gold Coast backline all to himself, which means his ceiling is so high. Lockie Ash is, apart from that, the one game that killed us all, the 23 or whatever he got, he just gets 100 every week, really. So do you want the safety and the value of Ash, or do you want the potential ceiling of Noble? Yeah, you probably can't lose either way, to be honest. But I'm going Ash this week, because I think you just can't say no to that value, can you? 100 million in fantasy, and such a reliable fantasy player. Looks like it's going to be a pretty fruitful matchup, you would think, against the Saints as well.
Should be. All right. So any other players here worth mentioning? I guess we all sort of probably talked about them and bought in last week. Christian Petrarca didn't do what we really wanted last week, and maybe Took was a better option there for a few dollars cheaper as well. But, we want Christian Petrarca, I think, at some point, so you could still get him. But this little run of games, it's one of those things that I just feel like just don't touch the forwards, and we've got a couple that we could be looking at still to come. So like a Jordan DeGoey next week, for example. If Durham holds that role, knowing that there's, some guys coming back in like your Parishes, we've even got Dyson Sharp. We'll get to that game shortly, but coming back in. So it's probably those sorts of things that you want to see a little bit more of. But you do have options that might be more value options than having to hit Petrarca, where he's just not really hitting the exact numbers that we think he should.
I think if you didn't get Petrarca last week because of the matchup and the run and all that, then nothing's changed this week. If anything, it's a harder game at the Cattery. The price isn't getting away from you. So I think just hold firm. I mean, like Braden Cook got 87 last night. So there's forwards out there who can do a job for you while you wait for the run to clear up, or, a better option presents for cheaper, as you've already outlined.
And anyone that needs a vice captain, I think our man will be Baz tonight. So if you didn't do Dawson like you probably should have done, he is your man, I reckon, to go with. This
has got a 130, 140 written all over it.
Yep.
Friday night at the Cattery, no tag to speak of. Dimmer doesn't tag.
No, and giving up plenty of points there, the old Suns. Let's move into Saturday, and the 1:15 game is the Bombers up against the D's. So just remember, this is the game that back in Gather-Round that the Bombers did win, their only game in the last 12 months that they have won. So we might see history. No, it's not going to repeat itself yet. So anyway, we've got 4 changes there for the D's. Oh, mate, Caleb Windsor is out injured, with Latrell Pickett, Brody Myercheck also injured, and Tom McDonald omitted, sorry. Pickett is omitted there as well. But we do have a couple of debutants from the mid-season draft. That's Joel Fitzgerald, he's the magnet. He's the one that we've probably all been waiting and wanting to see here. The midfielder at 230k, averaging a 135 before he was drafted in the mid-season draft, and has pumped out basically a 150 and a 120 for Casey. So Lucas Cook had a 120 last week as well. He's a defender, so might see some marks there for him that could work against the Dons. But Bill Laurie's back in, and also Jake Melksham. For the Bombers, the Dawg has been omitted, as had Saad El Hawley. And then in for the Dons, Jordan Ridley is back into that defence, and Dyson Sharp, after that shoulder, has straight back in. So he is good to go. No VFL game for him to get going here. Right, both these teams have a bye to come, so we're not buying into either of them. However, we probably can be buying straight into the cash cows because while the D's have a bye, it is the round 16 bye, so you're going to get 2 games to start with. And in a way, we kind of think that rookies don't really count as these players that are on a bye at any time anyway. He's the one, though, isn't he, Fitzgerald, with the pedigree that he has.
Yeah, so wins are out. Is a tick there for a guy that can come in and take his CBAs. Ridiculous VFL scorer, just racks at the pill for fun. And he comes in as a mature age. So he ticks every box, really. Like I said to you last night, it feels like a slam dunk.
Yep.
So I don't think you need to overthink that one as your main downgrade option for the week. Ridley, nice for draft if you've been hanging on to him, because he always comes in and scores points, so long as he doesn't do a soft tissue.
Yeah, yep.
Again, it's probably even bad news for Archie Roberts, adding another mouth to feed down back.
Because they have said Merritt's going to stay there. Yeah, that's going to stay with what they're doing.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, or put this to you. I've done a couple of versions of my trades this week. Is there a world where you can go Sam Durham this week, knowing the roll's juicy, break even's 50, is it? I think pretty low.
Yeah, it's pretty low.
And ultimately, let's say if you brought in Durham this week, you're only sacrificing a 690, 720k player next week. If he's a forward, you're not losing out that much, but you get the instant reward. Like, if we're backing him in this role, you get the price rise, you get the points this week, and then next week, well, you just cop the buy, and you're not missing. It's not like you're missing a freemium. He's only a mid-pricer. What are your thoughts?
Well, if it was 2 games, maybe I'd feel a little bit more comfortable in doing that. But I think I'm just a no. He's probably not getting ridiculously away from us either. So that break even is 61. So the projection thing says 82, and that would make him go up 17k. So even if it's a ton, maybe it's a 30k difference where you can do that and be hitting there. It's a little bit one of those things of the forward line. We're not loving to buy into that space anyway. So that's probably the thing at the moment when, Jordan De Goey might be the answer next week. And then we could look also there. Yeah, but, timing of things as well depends on who you've got and what you can cover, I guess, is one of the other things for next week, because everyone's going to be in a little bit of a different spot. I think for some teams I've seen that they could cover these sorts of moves, so that's a positive thing. But, yeah, I'm a no is basically where that is. Just because of timing, I think, and I think more bodies on field, as we've seen in every bye round that we've ever played, I reckon there's always going to be someone that you would not have predicted to drop off.
Yeah, and I think knowing that you've got De Goey as probably you're in next week, it would be good to come out of the next 2 weeks with Durham and De Goey ready to go, but you're still going to have Cook and those other guys floating around. So it's an interesting conundrum. So you'd be more in favour of, say, doing a Marcus Herbert, going right to the bottom, having him on field, and then you've got the cash next week. And
that's it. A few questions came through on our stream last night around that. I think taking cash in, like just play the 1 week that you need to, as we're going with that. The other little mention I'll make out of this game too is probably that so Max is still solo, so that should be a bit of a win for any Max owners. Could even be some captaincy stuff, although as we know the Bombers have been a little bit of a ruck killer. But yeah, no Max Heath there despite his massive score last week. So Heath is still someone that I think that he's going to be there and thereabouts, but he's not even an emergency for this game. So I think that's probably a little bit of a win for any of the Max owners. Again, he's got his buy later on, so it's hard to buy into him. But I think the timing of all the ruck trades this bye period isn't fantastic because we're all thinking about, options that we could have been trying to do, but we've got the Roos to talk about shortly, is not really on the radar. Let's move to that game, and that is North Melbourne and your West Coast Eagles. That's happening at Optus because that is one of the North Melbourne games that they have sold. They brought Zach Fisher in for a game and then omitted him the next. Riley Hardiman, so a defender out injured with Will Dawson also omitted there. Coming in for the Roos, Tom Blamires and Cooper Harvey, but also Taylor Goad. So this is probably that conversation, I suppose, is that he hasn't shown enough anyway with his numbers that he's pumped out there, but he kind of looked like that, he's had his bye. If you're doing any ruck shuffles, he could have worked, but that's just an absolute no from here. Do you agree?
I think so, and it's a real shame. It looked like he was going to be such a great option for us if we needed an R2 move, but I get the feeling North are trying to stretch West Coast here. Mm-hmm. So Jimby out and Harry Edwards still not playing due to concussion. They've brought in, Dawson was more of a defender / ruck, but Goad is someone who can drift forward and take a mark, very athletic, got a good spring to him and all that sort of stuff. So I think they're trying to stretch the Eagles. That would be my guess, but it doesn't bode well for Tristan Sherry. And as it turned out, Warning, my decision to bring in Bailey Williams as my R2, not the worst option after all. I mean, he may not score that well this week, but again, you still have the flexibility to move him forward if a ruck option presents. It's just that I just have found that there wasn't really an option that was presenting that I really loved.
We can take these next week. Take these little wins, Drew. That's the thing. Like when you've got lots of bad calls that you've made this year. Here's one that isn't a bad call. May not be the awesome call, it's not a bad call.
There's been some absolute stinkers. But yeah, I mean, from a North Melbourne perspective, just Cooper Harvey has been playing half back all year in the VFL. So if you've got a deep draft league where you need a forward streamer for a week, he might be one you could have a look at.
Yep. With the forward status, which is handy.
When he's come into the senior team, he hasn't always played as the defender even though he's been doing it in the VFL. So that's the only flag there. But Hardiman out. So Harvey looks like the guy who could slot in and play that role. Blamire's probably more likely to play on the wing. So just one to look at.
Could mean Colby. Could have been Colby gets back again.
Who knows? Yeah, obviously they were so bad last week.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a surprise to see them shuffle things around. This time last year, I reckon I did that Zoom chat with Colby from the hotel room. And gave him I just was basically asking him about his role.
That's right.
I think I even asked about Sheasel's role as well. That got me the early award for Journo of the Year. Just the fantasy slant of that interview.
The timing was perfect.
I think, from a West Coast perspective, not much.
Yeah, so their changes there. So Jimby out, and that looks like it's a long-term injury there for that quad. Tom McCarthy was a bit of a surprise last night with his hammy. So it sounds like tightness, though. So maybe, it may not be long-term, but obviously these guys have got the bye next week. Malachi Champion was omitted. But then Will Dersma was another big one there. That's a calf for him. Have you heard any extra on that one there?
No, but I think they were erring on the side of caution with the bye to come, because he's had a pretty big start to the year. And because physically, he's a big-ish guy, but he's still quite skinny. So I feel like that it's a good opportunity to give him a couple of weeks off. Already for
Dersma in year one, he's the best of the Dersmas at 777k. So he's gone up a heap this year. So you can almost thank him for his 427k that he's made, and it's just nice timing to be able to move him. But so those ins there, so Gross, Hewitt, Josh Lindsay's back in, but Marcus Herbert, he's probably the other one that we are talking about. But I guess the awkward thing is these guys having the bye the next week.
Yeah, I'm interested to know where Herbert's going to play, because through the VFL he's been midfield or a bit of half back, and with Dersma going out, I think Hewitt is going to come in and take those CBAs, maybe with a bit of Gross. But the champion omission is the interesting one. So maybe it's a good thing that we just take the the week to have a look at Herbert before we get him in. Because if he comes in and plays as like a forward, like the similar like Murdoch role, that's not good. But if you've seen the photos of him from training or any of the highlights and the waffle, like he's a freaking monster. Like he's a unit.
That's what I'm getting reports from the Sunshine Coast as well. There's a bloke up there that's getting his shirt off looking like that as well at the moment.
Yeah, it's obviously someone else. It's not me.
Schmooky said in his sort of reporting of that was saying that he's probably going to be that halfback replacement for McCarthy. I don't know if that's him just guessing a little bit there, but that would be a pretty ideal thing. And if we saw that, then that's a mega launch after the round 15 bye.
Yeah, well, given that they've got Lindsay back in as well, I think that was always likely with the Jimby out, and then they just have Starcevich play a bit taller. That makes sense. So if you held Lindsay, then you get a nice boost there. And I've got a feeling we're going to be getting Herbert into our teams. Yeah. So, if Smooky's saying that he's likely to play halfback, then I think that's another tick. So, what do you like better? Do you like Herbert or Durham for this week?
Oh, well, maybe, I guess it's a similar thing with the buys, but if you're willing to launch into Herbert, well, that could just give you that cash to make sure you can do exactly what you want to do next week, because all those weeks that we do have and you miss out by those few dollars or whatever, like just give yourself that out, and you've got a little bit of time to sort of suss it out over the next 24 hours or so before you do need to make that call. But, I'm probably... Yeah, I think I'd have to go the cheaper guy, just with that buy coming up. That's the thing. And there's still a little bit of unknown about the Bombers. I think that's the other thing that sits there for me, is that there's players to come back. The Bombers are a rabble, as we know, and we'll see, where that is. Give it a week or two.
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I think having that cash you bring in to go in next week, if I have a spare 300K sitting there, I could probably make sure I get Dawson in as well as to go in and one other rookie. So that probably works out okay. I just love the look of Durham on field this week, just for the extra points. Where when you're sitting, 40K, you're looking for any advantage, any way to climb the standings to catch up to Cal, which is my ultimate goal.
The challenge is there. All right, let's look at Port Adelaide and Sydney. So Port have had their bye. Sydney have got that coming up. Harrison Ram, the big man, is in. He's a massive human, so he was a mid-season draftee last year. Another mid-season draftee from this year is Xavier Bammett, and then Kane Farrell's also in. Their outs, Moraes and Ware have been omitted, and Josh Lay with that concussion is out. For the Swans, so Tom McCartan, he's out as well with concussion, and then Justin McInerney. So he had that ankle the week before, and now it's the hamstring that's going to keep him out for a bit of time as well now, as that is. So it's been reported for a few weeks. So Joel Hamling and Harry Cunningham come in. All right. So another mid-season draftee. So Bammett was probably high on our lists as well to look at. I think he's going to play a little bit of the graveyard shift, as it's called, on the half forward or whatever. So maybe his numbers may not be as good as what we'd love to see, but he's had his bye. So that's the bonus of picking someone like him if you were looking for a 230K basement midfielder.
Yeah, and he's your prototypical, 1 goal, 4 marks, 12 possession player at AFL level. Like at VFL level, he's a star. And he's definitely got I was lucky enough to see him play just on the random VFL shifts that I've done for Fox Footy.
Yeah, yep.
He's got a nice feel for the game, and that's what I think a lot of these mature age mid-season draftees, a lot of them are picked because they're proper footballers, and they're not prospects. Yeah. They're proven players, and Bammett's one of those guys.
You can do your job.
Yeah.
Yep.
He might end up playing the next 60 of 60 of Port's next 70 games because you can just stick his magnet half forward or on the wing, or maybe even a forward pocket, and he'll give you the same output every week. So
not massive upside, not massive downside. It's kind of the thing. A safe pick for the club.
Right. So if he has a really good game this week, then he might be someone that we look at next week, or if you want to roll the dice on him because he hasn't got a bye, I don't think that's a bad thing. They've brought him into play. It's like Herbert at the Eagles. He's on a 6-month contract.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell me he's not going to be going out there and being like, I want to earn myself a 2-year deal. I want, this is my chance at an AFL dream. So Bammett might well be in the same boat. But from a power perspective, it's not a lot to talk about, is there? And
the horn bag?
The way it's been.
Would you be happy to buy the bag? 99 he scored last week, but it was 3 goals. Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, in Supercoach he got 130, I think. So that was a good sideways move from McCluggage for me. Yeah. Did Roy do it in the end?
Roy did it. So I think
he did do it, didn't he? Yeah.
I don't think he's actually totally happy with himself in that as well, because it was probably one of those ones that was like, oh yeah, he probably limped his way to a 99. When you've got a midfielder having to kick 3 goals, and we know that's what the Hornbags game is going to be about. Just hope that there's none of those 60s around the corner, which he went on his 3-game streak of those ones not that long ago. But yeah. He's another one. It's again, like, that's why I would not pick Hornbag, and I would wait for Dawg next week, or Durham, if that's the one in a fortnight's time to be going for. So that's where my brain sits with that one. Right, Sunday, we've got 2 games. We've got one down in Hobart, actually, and that is at Ninja Stadium, Richmond and Brisbane. So Jack Ross is out with that concussion. He didn't get up because I think when his owners might have seen that the week or so ago, and pretty much once we saw that, it was like going, oh, yep, they've got the bye. So that's a bit of a win, but he hasn't got up for this one. So that might be a trade out for anyone in the forward line there. But again, it's a forward. Do we just want to leave that and let that go? But it sounds like it's a little bit of an up in the air one too. So that might just be the trigger to pull to say goodbye. But they bring in Samson Ryan, Tom Brown, Maurice Rioli, and Kai Anand into the squad. So remember, these are trimmed at 5 p.m. on Friday. Lions haven't said goodbye to anyone, but they've brought in Luke Beacon, Sam Marshall, and Eric Hipwood, which would be a big one there. Hippie, because we haven't seen him for a while.
The only thing that caught my eye here is that Sam Banks is like 550K or something. So cheap. And I just flirted with it for a minute. Yeah. But there's just no guarantee that he's going to score over 60. Like, it's just been that kind of year for him. And Jaden Shaw is just dominating the ball down there, At least you know the ball's going to be down back. That's one advantage. But, yeah, I think...
It's a sad state a little bit too with the Tigers, because they're a team off the bye, and we're just really not wanting to buy into any of those. We've had names in the past.
Can you make a case for Taranto?
I think he could, but it would just be one of those ones like, are you just settling for him because he's coming off the bye? But at 804K, knowing what he can potentially do, that's sort of the nice thing. But if you look back at his numbers, they're all over the shop. Like an 80 last week against the Swans, so a tougher matchup, and a fortnight ago, and then it was a 127 against the Bombers, but even against the Saints, so, he only had 10 kicks in that game with the 64, 87.
We got tagged.
Yeah, got tagged in that one.
They tagged him.
Yeah,
which is unbelievable.
It just is a struggle to do. Like, even moving forward, Lions aren't going to be an easy matchup, and into North, Collingwood, Carlton, not too bad, but yeah, I just don't think I could. But at that price, again, it's probably one of those ones I'd liken that to the fact that would I be better off having a Jordan to go in the midfield next week with the dual position at a similar price than having Taranto. It's a weird world that we live in, where you'd probably be putting a forward into the midfield before picking a midfielder.
Yeah, I was trying to work out, like, the year that he went from GWS to Richmond, which was Dimmer's last year at the Tigers.
Yep.
And he was a forward. He had a sensational year. Like, for the first half of the season, he was averaging like 115.
And I think that's the thing. The first half was massive, but the second half was pretty average.
So he had this amazing 12-week stretch. And since then, his probably career average since then has probably been about 90. So we haven't actually seen this, ceiling Taranto for quite a while. So I think if you're trading into him priced at roughly 80, you probably can't expect much more than 90. And we really want to be trading in a 90 averaging midfielder at this time of the year. Like, it's hard to talk yourself into it, isn't it? It's
a hope type thing, isn't it? You're trying to, you're hoping something changes, hoping that something is different. So yeah, that's not for me. Let's move on to the last game, which is St Kilda and GWS. A few players here, obviously GWS are coming off their bye, but for the Saints, Boxall, Dodson and Butler coming to the squad. Cornelio's out injured with Hogan, Hannaford, Ryan Angwood and my man Harry Oliver coming into the squad. So again, we'll see these at 5 p.m. this afternoon to see exactly where the cuts are made there. So GWS, if you're tossing up, I think we said it before pretty much, but it's Ash over Whitfield.
I think so, but I mean, I love both of them, but I think just Ash is better value. And then what about Finn versus Clary?
Yeah, I think I'm just going Finn, but then Finn's the one that's going to cop the attention, which is the reason I'm probably not going there.
I think he'd be almost a better buy next week.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you've got Garcia and Windhager who they might tag team him. I think Oliver probably scores better this week.
Yep.
But you'd probably rather trade in Finn next week. So it's a tough one. I think ultimately, from a Giants perspective, it's Ash or Whitfield that we're looking to bring in.
Yeah.
I don't mind Brett Daniels.
Yep. He's had the mid-clock, which has been huge.
Yeah. You can take him as a midfielder. So I don't hate the Daniels move. It's probably low. It's pretty low risk.
Yeah.
Right now, isn't it? How many more bye weeks do we have? Is it still 3 more bye weekends?
Well, this one and 2 more, yeah. Yep, so 3 altogether. So you could play him through there. Again, as a forward at that price, again, I'd prefer to do that move than I would to your Horn Francis again, like if we're using that one as the example.
Yep. He might go 100, then 65 next week, then 100 again. And the 65 might drop off. You get 2 tons out of a guy priced at 73 or something.
Yeah.
It's not the worst idea because Green's got a broken foot, so he's not going to they're going to use they're not going to use him through the mid.
Yeah,
you wouldn't think too much. So there's a spot there.
Yep. No, it's going to be interesting to see sort of what he can score because he might be that poster boy next week as well as things continue to roll on. Because this week we've got our Degoe to be waiting on. We've got a few of these rookies to be getting to. And let's have a look then at a bit of a ranking. You dropped a ranking last week. Is it my turn?
Yeah, it's your turn. Your turn.
All right, well, let's go. Can I cheat and go Hugo Hall-Kahan should have been number 1? Which I think everyone's got him now, so that's all good. I think really our number 1 that we've got to come this round has to be Joel Fitzgerald, even though he's got that round 16 bye. I think he's the one, the 230k midfielder. He's 22 years old. We mentioned before, he ticks all those boxes. So it was a 135 average at Williamstown, and he's gone 150 in his first game for Casey with the 40 disposals, just nuts, and then 119 last week with 33 touches. So he'll probably get that midfield role as well. Like everything just adds up. So I think he's a clear number 1, and I'd put him sort of at the top there ahead of anyone else as that midfielder. Bammett over Herbert at 2 just because he's had his bye. Now, we're not probably expecting, if I'm going to put money on who's going to score more this week, it's going to be Herbert, but just that bye, I think I'm going to go with Bammett ahead. Still averaged 70 odd for North Melbourne, playing for them before he was picked up in the mid-season draft, and it is going to be, like you mentioned, Sandford last week. What'd you say? Is that sort of 12 disposal 4 mark guy? He had 12 disposals and 7 marks in the Sandford last week, so that's where he then kicked 2 snags. So you can sort of see what sort of stat line he might end up with, and obviously things are going to be a little bit different at AFL level. But he's at 2, Bammett, and then we've got Herbert, who was a gun at Geelong, so he's 23 years old, 106 he averaged in the VFL. He got tagged in his first game in the Waffle as well, so that's where you're sort of seeing he's going to be great. And if he is that halfback replacement, we're going to see something pretty awesome this week, I reckon. But, so he can be at number 3. Then throwing around, there's a few other names that can be sort of in the mix here with that. Like I've got not in probably a top 5, but as midfielders, which is kind of what we've looked at there in those 3 guys. But you've got my man Jai Murray for the Suns. He's kept his spot, but I don't think I could really buy into him. So even though I did that myself last week, so I don't know if I could do that. But he's another one that could be there if you were really considering that. And then, my next option is Tom Cochrane. So 291k. The only reason being is that I think he's going to hold his spot for a little bit. That might be the thing for Port Adelaide. That little bit of a job security thing is there, as could, and it's almost a toss of the coin between him and the algorithm, those 2 guys. But they're both their scoring output just won't be massive for us. So that's where I'd probably, in a way, prefer to go down to the basement, because Luca Kentfield, he's another one as well, sort of fits in that mix, and he was okay with a score of 47 last week, but he had 3 kicks and 1 handball. So those days could be like a 47 for a 3 kick, 1 handball stat line might be
good
a
effort.
bit of a worry. So, yeah, that's the thing. But probably the one there might be Lucas Cook. He's 22-year-old defender. There might be that spot there for the D's in the back line for a little bit. So, 196 centimetres he is. So, averaged 80 basically in the sandful, but he was awesome last week. Scored 120 against Collingwood in the VFL with 32 touches and 11 marks. So, one of those sort of, you can imagine what that sort of game would have been for a defender in that. So, I don't know if that turned into a 5 or a 10 or whatever it was, but there's some names.
I think we're flush. We're flush for
we
options,
are, and
that's for sure.
We almost joked about it, that you could look at that double downgrade, triple downgrade last night, but it's actually something in play, and whether you're thinking about it for this week to do 2 down and carry some cash, which you could do there, so you're doing, well, a better move next week could be the way to go, and whatever you're doing this week, almost have that in the back of your head, because one of the things I did mention last night too was that, you know, we've got Podarski, who I think is almost a walk-up start for us as a rookie downgrade in the forward line next week, and he would actually be ahead of any of those forwards that we mentioned there, Cochrane, Algorithm, those guys there, because I think the Pies need him, and so he'll be there next week, has his bye this week, obviously, as he's a Pie.
I think he's shown that he's more than capable of slotting into their forward line, and they need. I think he looks better than Buller, to be honest. So I think he's going to be pretty safe for the back half of the year. So it's nice to know you've got that one in the back pocket for next week, and then if you're able to pull off 2 this week, I just think with Kentfield and Jasper Alga, they're just going to be scoring like 35.
Yeah, they're not going to be
45, and they might get games. And with my check out for the rest of the season, with that unfortunate injury, it does open up a spot in the D's forward line. They've been playing Jefferson a fair bit as well. But ultimately, there's options there. Thanks for doing your top 5. It's good. We can make it a regular thing. I think I've probably talked myself into Herbert.
Yeah, I like it.
But I'll see if I can make the money work for Brett Daniels. See if that's possible as well. If I can get Durham at 690, then maybe I can fit Brett Daniels in. So just before we depart,
yep.
What are your moves this week? What are you doing?
So I already pulled off. So I don't love that I did trade out Sam Walsh, but I think to get Jordan Dawson was quite a priority. That's a massive upgrade, I think, in general, and that would have been a week to week. But obviously the buy round player that is there. Houston goes to Ash, and then I'm actually getting rid of Jack Ison to bring in Fitzgerald. So.
Nice. So that's a good week.
I think that's sort of...
Back up the rankings.
Yeah, I think that's the way that we... hopefully. But I think that's the way that we're sort of playing. It almost feels like quite a vanilla sort of move, and everything feels pretty spread for the next couple of weeks. I think that's probably one of the key parts of it. Always be looking ahead to those next couple of weeks to make sure you got as many warm bodies on field, but also that they become those bigger premiums, which is always our plan throughout these buys. And despite whether you're ranked in the 30K plus or wherever you are, that's what we want to try to do, because the back half or the back part of the season, because we're down to this is the 10th last round of the fantasy season as we get through, so we're not too far away. Well, enjoy the Sunshine Coast. I look forward to hearing my spies up there snap some of those paparazzi pictures of you with the rig out, Drew. Have you got in the water? Has it been nice and warm enough up there to have a bit of a swim?
It's probably not swimming weather typically, but the water is quite nice here. Yep. So
has Max got in?
We've had a splash around. Yeah, Max is loving the beach.
Nice.
Yeah, you'll see some snaps on socials fairly soon, I'd say.
Beautiful.
All right, mate. Have a great weekend.
Joy. Go Eagles.
Go Eagles.